Okay, hello Cloud Gurus, and welcome to this lecture. In this lecture, we're looking at how we can secure S3 using pre-signed URLs. So it's the very last way of accessing objects inside S3. We've looked at bucket policies, we've looked at IAM policies, we've looked at object ACLs or bucket ACLs. We've looked at CloudFront, and of course, we can access objects using pre-signed URLs. Now, this is typically done using the SDKs, so you would do it using, Python or using Java or using Go or whatever. You generate some code that would enable your users to access a object inside S3 using a pre-signed URL. A lot of people don't know this, though. You can actually do it via the command line. So that's what we're going to do in this lecture. We're going to quickly show you how to do it using the command line. So we need to log into the AWS console. Okay, so here I am in the AWS console. The very first thing we need to do is just go down to IAM. We're going to create a role which will enable us to access S3 using administrator access. No doubt some of you will already have this role installed on your AWS account from the Solutions Architect Associate or Developer Associate. I'm just going to create one anyway. So let's go in and hit create role. I'm going to go and create this role for EC2, and I'm going to just do EC2 as my use case, and then go ahead and hit next for permissions. And then I'm going to go and search for S3, and I should get something like S3, Amazon S3 full access. You can see it's an Amazon managed policy because we have the, the Amazon AWS icon. I'm just going to call this S3 admin access, something like that, very original. And it is not allowing me to save this because I've already got that, so I'll just call this 2018 for argument's sake. Go ahead and hit create role. That will now create the role which I can then go ahead and assign to an EC2 instance. So let's go ahead and provision an EC2 instance. By now, you should all understand how to SSH into an EC2 instance, either using PuTTY or using the Mac OS X terminal. If you don't, please go back to the associate courses and just have a quick review as to how to SSH in. I'm going to go ahead and launch an instance. I'm going to use the Amazon Linux AMI. I'm just going to use a T2 micro. I'm going to use everything as default, but I'm going to add that S3 admin access role that I just created. I'm going to go ahead and hit next. I'm going to add my tags. I'm just going to leave everything as default. Select an existing security, or create a new security group if you don't already have one, or select an existing one. Make sure that port 22 is open to the world, or at least open to your IP address so you can SSH in. I'm going to go ahead and hit review and launch. And go ahead and launch. I don't actually have this is a new account, so I'm just going to create a new key pair. I'm just going to call it my 2018 KP. I'm going to go ahead and download that, and now I'm going to go ahead and launch my instance. That can take a couple of minutes, but as soon as it's ready, what I'm going to do is go ahead and SSH into this EC2 instance, and then we'll pick it up there. So I'm just going to pause the video and wait for this to come up online. Okay, so I'm in my terminal window. I'm just going to quickly chmod, I think it was called my 2018. I think it was with a capital my 2018 key pair. And I'm going to chmod that to 400, so I'll be able to use it. Then I'm going to SSH to EC2-user and then then my public IP address, and then and then it was my 2018 key pair. That should hopefully log me in. Type in yes, and I'm going to elevate my privileges to root, so sudo su. I'm going to clear the screen. Okay, so let's just check that the AWS role is working and that I can list all my buckets. So AWS S3LS, I can see all my buckets in there. Let's clear the screen. Let's make a new bucket for this. So AWS S3 make bucket, and we'll call it S3, and we'll call it a Cloud Guru pre-signed, something like that. Hopefully that is available. And so that has now created the bucket. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a little text file. So I'm going to call it, hello.txt. Oh, sorry. So I should say I'm going to echo hello cloud gurus. and then I'm going to output that to hello.txt. And if we just type in ls, we can see it in there. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to copy that over to S3. So AWS S3 and then copy, and then it's just hello.txt to S3, and then it's a cloud guru pre-signed, and just hit enter, and that has now copied it up. If I want to view that, I just type in AWS 3 ls, and then it's S3 and then a cloud guru pre-signed, and hit enter. And you can see that hello.txt is there. Let's just quickly jump back over to the console. So I'm back in the console, going to go over to S3. I'm going to go and find that S3 bucket. We're going to see if we can access the hello.txt file. So it's called a cloud guru pre-signed, which is here. And we can see the file in here. If I actually go and click on it and I click on this link, I'm going to get an access denied. And that's because by default, the bucket is private and we haven't given anyone, access to this object. So let's go back over to our terminal window and let's go ahead and clear the screen. So to do this, all we need to do is type in the command AWS S3, then pre-sign. That's literally it. And then S3, and then the bucket. So it was a cloud guru, and then it was called pre-signed. So pre-signed, and then it was hello.txt. Now I could hit enter here. If I do that, it's going to pre-sign the URL by a default of 60 minutes, so 3,600 seconds. If you want to make that shorter or longer, all you need to do is do this, do expires, and then in, and then the value. So we could say 300, which would be 300 seconds. So it's the value in seconds. Go ahead and hit enter. That will generate your pre-signed URL. So you can see here, it's still https acloudpresign.s3.amazon.aws.com/hello.txt. And then this is the pre-signed URL, and it's generating basically an access key ID. And then it says it expires, and this is a timestamp. And then we have our security token, and this security token is essentially like our secret access key ID, except it's only relevant to this one object. And that's how we'll be able to view it. So if you just copy it and paste that into your clipboard. So here I am in Chrome. If I just paste that in and hit enter, it should hopefully, there we go, hello Cloud Guru. So I didn't need to go in and do any changes to the object ACLs or to the bucket policy or to IAM. I made this object public just by using the command line and generating a pre-signed URL. Okay, so what are my exam tips? Well, pre-signed URLs, you can access objects using pre-signed URLs. You don't need to go in and configure object ACLs or S3 bucket policies or IAM policies. You can just generate a pre-signed URL on an object. Typically, this is done using the SDK, but you can also do it using the CLI, as we've just seen. And they exist for a certain length of time in seconds. The default is an hour, but you can change this using the expires in followed by the number of seconds. So you can change this around. So that is it for this lecture, guys. Just bear that in mind going into the exam. Feel free to delete that EC2 instance. We won't be using it anymore. And if you have any questions, please let me know. If not, feel free to move on to the next lecture. Thank you.